Welcome to another episode of the And Both podcast. My guest this week is Marnie Madras. She is the founder and CEO of Rumbly. So after an impactful career in both corporate and startup worlds, Marnie found herself juggling the many roles of motherhood while pursuing her own goals in the "a good mom should" culture. Now, as the founder of Rumbly, a modern motherhood brand redefining the pregnancy experience, she's learned the art of balancing personal ambition with the expectations of motherhood. Her mission is to empower women to prioritize themselves during pregnancy and early motherhood, a time when individuality often takes a backseat. Drawing from her experiences as a mother of four, a doula, and an entrepreneur, Marnie is reshaping the conversation around motherhood, showing that moms can honor their goals, nurture their individuality, and still be incredible moms. I loved this episode. Just the transition from startup, from a corporate career to a postpartum doula I think that is just a magical pathway to follow. So enjoy the episode, and here's Marnie. Hello, and welcome to the And Both podcast. Here we are going to hear from moms and those in motherhood that are doing the thing that works for them. They are honoring themselves alongside the all-encompassing role and level of expectation that is modern motherhood. And we are going to hear from as many different people as possible in their own experience. So you can find people to relate to. You can hear stories that will make you laugh, make you cry, all of the above, and that we will come together as a community to support one another in a way that is holistic and honoring of the woman and the mother as a whole. Hello, and welcome to another episode of the And Both podcast. I am here today with Marnie. Marnie, welcome.
Thank you so much. I was really looking forward to coming. So this is a great start to my Tuesday.
As Tuesdays goes, this is the highlight.
Yes, sure.
Well, how about let's start with you letting people know about you, who you are, what you do, all those things.
Yeah, so the laundry list. So I'm Marnie. I am born in Toronto, Canada. I am a doula. I am an entrepreneur. I'm a mother, a friend, a wife, a daughter. I have 4 little kids at home. My oldest is turning 9 next week, and my youngest is just about a year and a half. I am a postpartum and birth doula, and I have also birthed Rumbly, which is kind of my 5th child. And Rumbly is a pregnancy and gift box subscription box that is a business that is 100% focused on the woman to support her, celebrate her through the transition to motherhood. So really for women going from that stage of youhood to motherhood and making them the priority through self-care and every other way that we can, while she and the rest of her universe seems 100% focused on baby. So I'm busy. I love being busy, and it fuels me.
That's awesome. How long ago did you start Rumbly?
I started Rumbly in the end of August 2022.
Okay. And then how long have you been a doula for?
Doula unofficially for a number of years, and officially I've just gone through the certification as of last year. So it depends how you look at the officially or unofficially, but I've been supporting clients for a while.
That's awesome. And how did you get into it?
Really interesting. One of those, of course, never really saw that coming. So I guess taking a couple steps back, my background's corporate, mostly corporate marketing operations. And when I was pregnant with my 3rd baby, I realized that I wanted to do my own thing. I had done other entrepreneurial things in the past before, so this wasn't entirely new to me. And the idea of offering, taking kind of my experience, and I really just wanted to do something to provide women with something that could really focus on them, again, during this highly transitional time, this period of matrescence for them. And to cut down a long story short, Rumbly is what came out of that. So going into Rumbly, my mission was really, again, to support the woman more during this critical time of change and transition in her life. And while I was doing Rumbly, and I absolutely love it and am still doing it, the one thing that I couldn't get was provide more hands-on experience. And that led me down to the path of becoming a doula. So then I can really have both. I can be there for the hands-on experience, and then I can also be there for, as a product-based company and show up monthly at her doorstep to, bring a smile to her face and remind her that she still matters.
So how long is the subscription cycle? Like, does it go like pregnancy through like a year postpartum, or like what does that look like?
Yeah, so as of now, so Rumbly is a split model. So the subscription model starts from first trimester, and after first trimester, it goes into month 4. And reason being, it's not monthly initially, it's just, when a woman finds out she's pregnant and is ready to kind of put it out there in the universe. So, and then it goes from month 4 all the way up to month 9. And after month 9, your subscription expires and it's automatically over. There's no action on the subscriber's part. Then we do offer postpartum, hospital, labor and delivery, baby shower, and essential boxes. And those are one-time gift boxes that you could either add on to your subscription or just buy on its own if you don't want to commit to subscribing first for a monthly subscription.
That's cool. I like that. I like that idea because
Yeah.
it is truly a time, like you've done this 4 times too. Like it's truly a time when people stop asking you how you're doing and they start asking you how you're like growing.
Yeah.
Just like,
Yeah. Totally. It's all about the health and development of the baby. And that was my experience. I love being a mom. I loved being pregnant. And what I found is just the second I found out I was pregnant, it was a switch went off and everything was about the baby. So again, for myself, but kind of my whole universe around me. So, you know, doctors, friends, families, it was like everyone was all about baby. And I'm kind of raising my hand here, struggling. And I'm going through a lot. My life is totally flipped upside down right now, socially, emotionally, physically. And there was so much change, and there was no one to remind me that this is normal and we can change how we experience that change as well by just giving it a little more attention, be it support and celebration.
yeah. And I think too, like one of those things is that so much of what happens in pregnancy, like especially from like a physical standpoint, it's like, I feel terrible or these changes are happening, whatever. Like, again, if that was happening in any other circumstance, people would be like, oh, like you should be concerned about that. But like when it's all housed underneath pregnancy, people are like, well, this is part of the deal, right? And you're like, well, like if I had the flu, people would feel bad for me. But if I have morning sickness, people are like, well,
Yeah,
it
absolutely.
is what
It's
it
almost like
is.
you deserve it. It's like, yeah, that comes with
Mhm.
it. So, deal with it. Move on. That's exactly it, actually. That's exactly the experience that I had, and that I think most women can relate to, which is where Rumbly can resonate really well with them.
Yeah. So your kids, you said your oldest is 9 and your youngest
Okay.
is a year and a half. How does I mean, a transition from corporate to, a focus on entrepreneurship, and doula is not a 9 to 5 as far as I can
Nope.
gather. How has that transition been for you, just from like a structure of work and structure of childcare and all of that? How's that been?
It's honestly, it's just been chaos. that's that's kind of my personal brand of word. I just live in a constant state of chaos. I don't have any downtime in a way that I can even think to how to articulate my experience. If when you ask me that, it's just a go, go, go. And I mean, one thing that you can see, I guess, given my background, is I really go on my gut and I don't say no to what I feel. So if it's, corporate doesn't feel right now. And it was mostly because I wanted to be more present for my kids. I wanted to be able to take them to a program after school or be there for a drop off and pick up. And it just didn't fit, my life. That wasn't for me. It's it wasn't about what was corporate getting me. Was it getting me a better salary? Yeah. But did I feel successful because of that? No. Success for me, the way I define it is, being present and being where I want to be. So that transition was hard financially, but great emotionally from a work perspective. And then, yeah, I just kind of, I was like, well, this really interests me. And this is something that I really want to put out into the world. And if I could have any legacy, this is what I want. And then, like I said, once I got into Rumbly, and then I realized the one thing that Rumbly couldn't do was allow me to be more hands-on with women, and that doula was a natural progression. Kind of didn't really think about it. I just signed up and did it and just started doing it and just throwing myself out there. And again, the more I add on to myself, the more chaotic my life gets, and the less I really kind of stop, I think, and just really, really think about how it's going, as long as it's making me happy. And it does. And I feel really good and I feel really happy amidst all the chaos, and just really lucky and fortunate to have those feelings of satisfaction, which a lot of people don't.
Hmm. Yeah, I like that. I think sometimes too, like going on the feeling of knowing that like what is a good step for you it's hard to make that step, because everything around you is, consider all the other factors, and like the jump and then make it make sense after. Like if that's a possibility, there's always like other factors at play, but being able to like do that, I think is it's a really cool opportunity.
And I think it's kind of what you said too. Like the byproduct of it is like because I'm so deep in the chaos, I don't even have time to think about things before I do it. So I'm like, I just do it. And is it right? I don't know. I mean, the best assessment is always, does it make you feel good? Are you happy doing this? But otherwise, yeah, I don't have that. Maybe it's my personality, or maybe it is because I'm just too consumed with a million things always on my mind and to do. But I don't have time to evaluate if things make sense as I continue to layer things on in my life.
Hmm. Yeah, I feel like it's a common thread of the larger family mothers.
Yeah, for sure. Definitely.
It's it's one of those. I was in a meeting last night for playground project, and it was sort of like someone was in the meeting and they were like, "Well, it's not possible to get this done between now and the next meeting." And I was like, "Listen, like if we started listening, if I started listening to the things that people told me were possible or not possible, as like having 4 kids of my own and a business and all of that, like I'd just be sitting in the corner, like, it's just sort of like,
Yeah.
just keep moving, just keep swimming,
Yeah.
just keep going, make the best, choices that you can with the information that you have, and carry on."
100%.
Hmm. And so so are 2 of your kids in school
So
then?
I have preschool and then my youngest daycare.
Nice. So
So I have, yeah.
you've got time during the day to ish.
Yeah. Ish. Yeah. Ish. It's the best way to put it.
The beauty of this is that we are recording this in November, which is the beginning of flu season and the beginning of all of that stuff. And so it's that the beginning of like best laid plans. Like, every year in summer, I'm like, oh, I'm looking forward to summer because we have so much, whatever. And then you realize that it's absolute chaos because, I work from home. And then I'm like, oh, we'll go back into school. It's fine. And then my kids in the first 3 months of the school year will have like 3 weeks that are actually full days of the week because of holidays and teacher meetings and all of these things. And I'm like, I was looking forward to school. And then, someone's got a cold and someone's got this. And it's like the no structure.
Yeah, it's those daily surprises. I agree. I'm very thick in that right now. And we were saying before, you kind of forget from year to year that it happens. I don't know how we forget, but I guess that's a positive thing that we do, where I'm in the cycle of strep throat right now in my house. And goes from one kid to the next, to the next, to the next, and just fill up that fridge. Amoxicillin. So the yellow bottles everywhere. All consuming. And then, yeah, they're home from school and then you pull them out of school to take them to the doctor. So yeah, that adds to the excitement, I guess.
Yeah. And I keep thinking back about this doula thing because I'm kind of fascinated by it. Like I had or a midwife for all of my deliveries, and I have friends that they worked with doulas, and it's one of those things I'm kind of like totally fascinated by this like new return to the old that I love is
Yeah.
happening, and this like return to a community of women and a community of people that are nurturing in a way that is really centered around the person who is doing the growing and the changing and stuff like that. So, like, what has
Yeah.
been
I
your
love
experience?
that. I absolutely love that you say that. And I think too, what we've been stripped of, as a society, culturally for us here, it's showing that, there is that need, like that need of community, that need of prioritizing the woman. That did exist. And then we lost it. And I think there is that sense of the recognition that, we want that back. And when I say we want it back, it's not that people know that they were stripped of it and it was once there, but it's that natural need, that women are starting to feel like, I need someone to have my back. I need someone to be there for me, to look out for me. And that feeling of that, you know, support system that just faded away somehow, is starting to make that comeback. So be it for people like myself, I think, who want to become doulas and want to support those women more. And then obviously the pregnant, the birthing, the postpartum women themselves who are, you know, recognizing that I don't think I should do this alone. I think the benefits of not doing it alone are so strong. And that's where they start seeking out a doula. So there is this shift that I think is like naturally happening on both sides. And it just shows us that like this is natural, this is normal, and we all crave this, and it makes everything. I don't want to say the system, but it makes everything run better and operate
Mhm.
better when we are just like leaning into what we know feels right.
Are doulas covered under healthcare in Canada? I don't know much about it here, but I know less about it there.
Some health plans have coverage. More are because again, it's kind of becoming a little more with the way I think modern healthcare spending accounts are being organized and developed. I'm seeing more coverage for support systems like doula, but it ultimately depends, I think, on a person's healthcare plan.
Mhm. I
So
think
we've
that's
gone from
also,
zero to a little bit, and
yeah.
yeah, very similar in the US.
I also think too, like it's always important to point that out because I'm Canadian, but I live in the US. And so I think what happens a lot of times is people are like, oh, in Canada, you just like everything's free. You just like go and all of this. And I'm like, no, there's still health plans. There's still like, it's a tiered system. It's not a like everyone gets all the things all the time. And there's a lot of different variations in it. There's a basement level that provides, protection and care and all of that. But it's not like all things are cream of the crop kind of piece. So you can
Yeah,
layer in what you want for that.
yeah, absolutely.
I wonder about, when we talk about like how pregnancy and how postpartum has changed, like, over the years and advances in technology and advances in research and things like that. Like I think about my oldest is 11, and when she was born and she had a bath and, she's all wrapped up in clothes and da 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 da, da, right? By the time 7 years later, I have my fourth, they're like, we don't bathe the baby for 24 hours. And we do this and we do this and we do this. And it was a completely different experience for one person doing the same thing, and in between there were sort of little changes between the middle two. But I wonder about, raising there's so much more awareness now about like postpartum health and postpartum challenges and the unique timing and time that is the postpartum period and the lack of maternal health care and ongoing maternal supports where doulas are able to help step in and not necessarily be the mental health link, but to lift off things that are within their wheelhouse so that that could be a focus. Are you seeing more of that?
So much. So much. And a lot of that is obviously the proliferation of just social media, right? So everything is shared and shared bigger and more often. And that, really it's it helps people understand, what options are out there, what's normal, what changes need to be made, what we're doing doesn't work, what we should be doing. And so really the whole gamut, but really like I think like a lot of change happened in COVID when people were with every industry basically home a lot more, on their phones a lot more. And social media has helped propel the more like I want to say universal, like global sense of community where of sharing that knowledge, of sharing like, hey, we don't do this anymore, and then you hear, like I have clients saying, well, I heard or I've seen or I've read, we don't do that, so everyone's kind of being in a positive way more educated, but then sharing more of like, you know, almost like best best processes, best everything. And, and that's really propelled it all. And it's, I see it as just being so positive. We are all students. We are all constantly learning and adapting and working towards betterment. And it's great, but I definitely see a lot of that.
Hmm. Yeah, and too, like, we're talking about like all the global culture, right? It's like people talk about it's like Japan, like your mom moves into your house and there's periods where you're like it's rest. And I can't remember all the specifics of it, but I remember, it's like 30 days or something like that. It's
Yeah.
a long time where it's like
Yeah.
you rest and people come in and they help. And like when that sort of gets broadcast out, people are like, holy cow, like, can you imagine what it would be
Exactly.
like? And then
Yeah.
you can start to imagine what it would be like. And, you don't have like, we don't have, I feel like a lot of times when this was more of a thing that people didn't necessarily need to lean on as much or think about as much as like you had these bigger families and you had, the people that lived closer to each other and stuff like that. And we live so far apart from, family of origin that's more common than living next door. And how that can all like how you can make it make sense because like maybe your parents can't travel
Yeah.
across to like help out. So how to fill in those pieces, which I think is really cool.
Yeah. Yeah, no, exactly that. And we do. And the beauty of learning from other cultures and that, nor it's like, oh, it seems like they've got that going right. And, you realize, what you don't have when you realize what someone else has, right? So there is actually a big global impact right now from several Asian cultures that do postpartum in particular very different, wildly different. A challenge, of course, is our governments and our local governments, and for maternity leave, and where we're supported from a work perspective. Where financially women can't all afford to just take, even 30 days off. So that's a big secondary factor. But in terms of the wellness is something, yeah, we're really learning from other parts of the world of what can set us up, for better, for more success, for a better, more positive experience that really, for me, it's it's a new stage of your life, but it's one that it's really like you are born again. This is once you become a mother, your life is forever changed. However that journey and experience goes, it is that big of an event that, it's so important that when we try different things that can make anything to help make it more of a positive experience.
Mm-hmm. I love that. And so like in the boxes themselves, like, if
Okay.
the premise is like the person as an individual, what are some of the things that are in the boxes? Like what does it look
Yes.
like for someone to get one?
So I don't give everything away, but
You
every
can't give
box is
everything away.
structured. I don't know. Every box is structured. Half of the items are intended to be the woman you are, and the other half are for the mom you're becoming. And that's to really bridge the gap between your former and present self. So again, I want women to not lose themselves in the process of becoming a mother, to remember who they are and how you still matter too, and not everything's about baby. So that being said, there's a lot of stuff for the physical transition you're going through, but then for things of spiritual and emotional, and that can range from a lot of beauty products to games to food to snacks to mocktails to exercise equipment to keep you moving and feeling good very lightly to clothing to tech items to cleaning supplies for your house. And so it really ranges all around because really what the truth is like I mentioned before, your whole world gets flipped upside down. So you're revisiting of, things like, what am I using to clean my house? What am I wearing? How do I not make everything about baby? How can I have like a date night with my partner? And, in one of the boxes, there's like games in there and there's things that you can do with your partner. I have one that's a date night for one because it's, I need time for just myself and full self care and, suggestions of what that could look like and just taking time for you again. So, products kind of go all over, and it's really every product is additionally takes you on that journey for where you are in your pregnancy and really what you need typically during that time, that month, that week.
How do you source things for it?
I have very limited supply of all my partners that I work with, and I, through networks of meeting people, through products discovery, through suggestions, it kind of goes all around. There's no one like linear way of how I find products. And everything is kind of just in small quantity put in the boxes initially, or that's ordered, sorry. And that's so I can continuously, discover new partners, try different things, get feedback from customers, what they like, what they don't like, and learn from them what they do really like and what's worked really well. But no linear way. And it's really just an organic way of discovery. And it works wonderfully, I have to say.
Yeah, I love that because that also gives opportunity for like other, maybe businesses that are focused in that area. It
Yeah.
gives another potential avenue. And like I imagine that if you are in the space, in the like the product space and you are meeting other people, like it's not like you're gonna meet someone who's like, I am, I don't know, can't think of an example off the top of my head, but like someone that's just in a completely different wheelhouse all the time. Like I think there's a lot of people that are interested in helping moms and helping
Yeah,
people with this transition.
absolutely. And then, I'm looking at things that aren't just pregnancy and motherhood specific because it's still about, there's things you can do in pregnancy and it doesn't have to be a pregnancy formulated product or a pregnancy intended product or a motherhood product, so I'm making connections and partnerships and one conversation leads to another, but just, there's also half of it is just things that I just really like and there's no reason to stop doing those things or using those products, when you are pregnant. And I should have mentioned too, though, that the products they do span across 4 continents. So it's awesome, like really looking for women-owned business owners, founders, innovators, creators, and across 4 continents. So it feels more of like this, a global box. And, we're just supporting women and supporting women businesses everywhere with products that we just think are amazing.
I love that. I love that the focus is, because I think too, like, for to say like I want to have a company that is geared towards women in the pregnancy and postpartum and sticking true to themselves. Like, I think it's easy to connect and say, oh, these are all these pregnancy products, but like if the mission is to see the person as an individual, like safety in terms of like what you can be around or eat or all of those things with pregnancy, like that has to be a part of it, but it doesn't have to be, you don't have to like prematurely put someone in you are the pregnant lady. So these are all the things you could have and that you should want, or, any sort of like, I don't know, not ramifications, but any sort of boundaries around that are imposed based on assumption versus what that person would be looking for. Like that.
Exactly. And that's it. Yeah. And that's what differentiates Rumbly and really sets Rumbly, apart, because we're looking at the woman, as pregnancy being part of her, but not necessarily all of her.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Well, I mean, don't give it all away, but I want to know, like, what are some of your favorite products? Because now I'm just curious beyond all belief.
My favorite. So, I mean, some of my favorite products are products that I've created, and I have to be biased towards those just because they are products that don't exist on the market and they still don't exist. And there are things that I found in my pregnancy that I just could have used that could have helped made it, a little better. So one of the products is a countdown calendar. And it's a little bit of a twist on like the fruits, where this week my baby's the size of a lemon and this week you're, an orange. And so it's a weekly countdown calendar leading up to your due date. And it's stuff that's about more the woman and what you may be experiencing and what you may be going through. But it's cheeky and it's fun and it's definitely like not all serious. So it's in this like beautiful leather bound case and you can put it anywhere in your house. So that's like for sure one of my favorite products. Another product that I also created was this really chic felt folder, and it's an organizer to house all your pregnancy documents. And what I found was I was getting, ultrasound requisitions, I was getting pamphlets and other sources of just paperwork to fill out and to complete. And I would come home or I'd throw it in my car and it would just go everywhere. So I created this really like specific folder. It has 2 slots also for ultrasound pictures that you can put in there. And it's just a way to like keep your pregnancy, postpartum, take it to the hospital. You'll use it after the paperwork there. Those are my top 2 favorite items. And again, they just don't exist anywhere else. And I just found that having used them, created them after my third pregnancy, but used them in my fourth, I really got firsthand experience of like how unique and special these 2 pieces were. So I love them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I feel like do you feel like if you had like one pregnancy or 2 that you would be driven to create something that is transition supporting versus having gone through this transition as many times as you did?
It's a great question. So I don't know if I would have thought of it, but I know that majority of Rumbly customers are first-time moms. And it's again because a lot of, I think whether they're gifted or buying for themselves, and most are actually purchasing for themselves, they're finding is they want it to be about them. Like they feel so removed that pregnancy is just all about baby. And, it's like a monthly baby shower gift, but for you, like every box is not baby stuff. Like they're on Amazon, they're on wherever else, and they're constantly ordering things for baby. And, oh, I can't eat this because of baby. Oh, I probably, shouldn't do that, lift that because of baby. Just really everything is about baby. And, new moms, whether first time, or fourth, are really feel that they get lost in that process of motherhood, and Rumley shows up to provide them with like that, hey, we see you and you matter too. So with the idea of come up after if I, stopped having children after my first. I don't know, maybe it's hard to say. I had the same struggles as I did in my first as I did in my fourth. But it's just as relevant is really what I want to say, being, having one versus having four.
Yeah. Yeah. I just mean like not necessarily like if it works for someone who has one, but just like in your own personal, like as the founder, like you sort of like, it's like the first time like everything is so new, right? And you're like, okay, disappointment and this thing. And like, maybe some of that stuff is more top of mind. And then you get to the other side of it and you're like, oh, wait a minute. Like I totally got like dropped off the back of the turnip truck in this whole like transition process.
Yeah, from what I hear, a lot of younger women, they really fear pregnancy right now, and not for necessarily the physicalness, but because of the transitions. They don't want to pause their life. They feel good. They know enough. And again, from whatever media they consume, that they see the struggles. There's so much content out there highlighting the struggles of pregnancy and not celebrating, not the beautiful parts of it. And so younger women, all they see is it, they see it as being more of a negative experience, and they want it to be a positive experience, or they don't want to do it. They want to hold off from being pregnant because they don't want their life to go unpaused or to change and everything about it being flipped upside down. So there is a recognition that, and there is a recognition that pregnancy is really hard, but also that it's not like aspirational. Like women don't want that. They may want children, but they don't want to be pregnant because they're consumed with so much negativity surrounding it.
Yeah, like
And
that's the that's the other side of social media, right? Is like you can share like all the ways in which you want to like work together and help and all of those pieces, but you can also share like, hey, listen, I got hung out to dry essentially, and like this is a raw deal. Yeah, it's that I had when I had my first, my neighbor behind me, she has 4 kids, and I remember her coming over to my house and she had her kids were not babies anymore. They were a little older. And I remember looking at her and being like, "You did this 4 times?" And she was like, "Yeah, you just kind of like forget like how crappy you feel when you're pregnant and all this stuff." And I was just like, "What?" And then I had 3 more kids and was like, "Yeah, no, I get it."
Mhm. Yeah,
It's like
you.
it's a lot. But and now I feel like that like there isn't that opportunity to forget, so to speak, because it's, you open your phone and you're confronted with, you're like, oh, I remember now how much I did not enjoy not sleeping and not doing this. And people are talking about it, which is essential because that normalizes that experience. And there is
Yeah.
also that second part too, where like normalizing the experience really lifts the veil for a lot of people on the magic.
100%. And like exactly, it's like we need that, but it's not balanced out really appropriately, I think, right now, which is challenging because it's always easier. It's easier to complain, than it is to show off. I personally loved being pregnant, and I had very uncomplicated pregnancies, and I was very lucky for that. I couldn't talk about that. I can never say I do now, but like while I was pregnant, I love this. This is great. I'm feeling great. People are like, they want to come after you. People don't want to hear that, So it's easier for us all to complain, to vent, and to, band together in those feelings of hardships, because it is hard for everyone. No matter what, pregnancy is hard. There's just, there's different experiences still surrounding it. And, it's great that we are, you know, opening the curtain on a lot of that, but it takes away again that like it's hard, but it can also be good, and it can be positive, and all the changes and that you may be going through and the hardships are really, this is a special time in your life, and you should be celebrated more for them rather than just like just you know feeling down basically.
Yeah. Yeah. And then the doula piece in that is like Do you feel like, you said like you wanted to work with people more like in the
Okay.
individual space and like get a chance to, it's like great market research, right? You're like,
Yeah,
okay,
it's
let's see.
absolutely.
Yeah. But have you noticed like trends in that way, like in terms of the like on the postpartum end of it? Like what are things changing in terms of like conversation and pieces like that? Like I think maternal
Mostly
mental
that.
health is a big part of it, and that's sort of like that's the road I'm inching towards, question wise.
Yeah, it's, mostly that women, they just they just feel like they're just dropped off, They got this baby and they're like, now what? And they just feel like they need someone. It's not like, it's more holistic. It's not, tell me how to bathe or swaddle a baby. And that is part of it. But it's also like, tell me to not freak out when my baby makes a sound. And, tell me that, like, when my hormones are going from here to here, that, like, that's normal. They want to feel, mostly women, that they feel very lost, and in postpartum in particular. And again, they're trying to deal with their own recovery from labor and care for a baby at the same time, and have no family around them, whether they have a family or, their family's just far away, and they just feel, they're really just drowning. And to help normalize anything and everything is one of the biggest ways I think that doulas can help support women in the postpartum, because feeling like things aren't normal just leads to, a whole series of, well, I've got everything wrong and we can't figure any of this out.
Hmm. Yeah. How did you have were your postpartum experiences, were they like more on the positive, or are they more on the like what the heck is happening? Like did that feed into this?
No, it didn't. The most thing so my postpartum experiences were generally positive because I had a very supportive community. And I say because it, I get it. I never had, I was able to lean on my network for a lot of support to help me through recovery, but also through baby care. There's kind of the two. So I felt very set up for success during that period, generally speaking. What really struck me to come, like, doing the work that I do now, though, was throughout all those experiences, again, what for me hit hard was I lost Marnie in the process of becoming a mom. And I lost it after my first, second, third, and fourth. And I still feel that way, where it just chips away at me, and where I became a mom first and Marnie second. And that's really what led me to where I am today, is, trying to prioritize the woman and let her know that pregnancy, motherhood is part of her, but it's not all of her. So whether I let it, or despite my real positive experiences, but that it just entirely consumed me. And that's what led me to doing the work that I'm doing. And I want to, support women in every way I can, but that being uniquely something that I want to, particularly in postpartum, that they continue to prioritize themselves, and that the period is about them too. And it's not just about baby. They became a mom, during this time. And this is, a series of change and transition and celebration again for that woman too, and not just baby.
Yeah. I think that's a really important point that doesn't get made that often, is that like people, you can have all of the support and you can have all of the right people in the right places and still have this. Like, and I think that too, like when you are in the process of, when you're pregnant and you're trying to set up for after the baby's born, it can become like a checklist, right? Like we want to just have all of these things in place so that all of these you've done everything that you could possibly do. You have checked all the boxes, you have planned, and when you have a plan, then everything will be fine, because that's part of the, the transition of moving into motherhood phase. But like, even having all of those pieces in place, it's still so fundamental for people to know that just because you have all the boxes checked, it doesn't mean that like you somehow get through this unscathed. Like, we are all affected by it, and how we're affected by it, and how long, and what the, not how long, but how the range of impact that we have is not determined by our level of preparedness. It's determined by the transition itself.
100, exactly. 100%.
Because I think people think like, oh, if I just prepared better, or if I just did the one more thing, or if I just whatever, then none of this would happen. It's like moving into the conversation of it's going to happen. And
Right.
the way that you can prepare yourself to address this when it comes at you is how you're going to get to the other side of it in a better position than if you don't do anything about it, or just say like, oh, whatever.
Yeah, no, 100%. And it goes back to like, we shouldn't be doing this alone. And we never did. And so to think that we should is just, it's wrong. It's wrong.
Mm-hmm. And it's
Women never did.
It's so isolating to think like, this is the way it is now because of the way it is now. And,
right.
If people are not able to access, like if people don't have access to doulas in their area, if they don't have access to all of those things, like how can they bring resources in different forms? So I love that there's things that you're doing that are layers of addressing the same issue.
Thank you. Absolutely.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, will you let people know where to find you, how they can connect with you? I mean, I'm assuming that, are you in the Toronto area still?
I'm in the Toronto area. Rumbly operates almost exclusively in the US, though. So that's for the pregnancy gift boxes and subscription boxes. Obviously sell in Canada, but 95% of my customers are in the US. So you can find us at rumbly.co, rumbly.co. And if anyone wants to reach out to me personally, you can email me. I'm Marnie, MARNIE @rumbly.co. And I love chatting with anyone about anything. And otherwise, socials is pretty much ever at rumbly_co. But I'd love to meet and connect. So if anyone wants to, please hit me up.
I love it. That's awesome. I love what you're doing. I think like the businesses that the people that see you as the individual, and the people that want to help hold on to that, because I think we're all so desperately trying to hold on to that, because whether or not you realize, like whether if you see it from somebody else going through motherhood, or you experience it yourself, like that there is going to be, like the apple cart is upended and there's no way to un-upend it. You can just hopefully mitigate the level of upending. To take the metaphor all the way down to the end of the paragraph.
Totally.
I love it. Well, thank you so much for coming on, and I will share everything in the show notes. So thank you.
Thank you so much. It's great to be here.